There are businesses operating in facilities that are limiting the growth or efficiency of the business, not because the business is falling apart, but because it was designed for a different era of operations. Functional obsolescence would be clear heights that don't work with modern racking, electrical service that can't support current machinery loads or planned automation, column spacing that locks in your current floor layout, dock door configuration that creates a bottleneck every time volume picks up, technology infrastructure that limits your connectivity. These factors aren't cosmetic issues, they're built into the original design and can't be changed cost effectively. What they represent is a competitive disadvantage relative to business operating in a more capable facility. It's not just about the building. Relocation may make sense when the business has outgrown the space, when the market has shifted, and the location no longer serves the customer base the way it once did, or when the lease economics have become uncompetitive. In a lot of situations, more than one of these factors is present at the same time. The right time to explore a complete analysis is before a lease renews or a purchase comes up for review. Many owners, when they lay out the true cost of current and future operations compared to the real cost of moving, find the numbers favor relocation more than they expected.
So where are you in the cycle? Every industrial business owner is somewhere in a cycle, growing into more space, reassessing a facility that isn't keeping pace with the operation, or approaching the point where the question shifts from how to run the business to how to transfer it. The three conversations I have with industrial owners often revolve around expand, relocate, and sell. Each apply to a different point in the cycle, and in most cases the right time to have the conversation is before the decision is forced upon you. Expansion planning done early gives you site options before the market narrows. Relocation analysis done before a lease event gives you real negotiating leverage. Exit planning that addresses your real estate strategy early produces better outcomes than addressing the situation in the negotiation phase. Real estate decisions made under pressure are almost always worse than decisions made with time and options. That's true whether you're adding a location, evaluating a move, or thinking about what the next chapter looks like. The cycle will eventually bring each of these questions to the surface eventually. Separating the business from the real estate at exit is an alternative. When a business owner is ready to exit their business, one of the most important decisions they make is whether to sell the real estate along with the business or retain it. Most owners don't think about this until they're deep into the transaction, and this can limit the opportunities. If you own your building, you have a real choice to sell the operating business and retain the property, becoming the landlord to the new owner under a negotiated lease. This generates long-term income, lowers the capital requirements for the buyer, and separates the business valuation from the real estate valuation so both can be optimized. Or you can sell both together as a combined transaction. This works in certain situations, particularly when the buyer can finance a combined package, for example, utilizing an SBA program where the price might reflect both assets fairly. If you lease your space rather than own it, the lease itself is something a buyer will scrutinize early. Assignability, remaining term, rent relative to market, personal guarantees could all be valuable. A lease with an adequate remaining term that sits at or below market is a positive factor in a sale. One that doesn't is a problem you want to address before you go to market. In either case, the real estate dimension of a business exit deserves a dedicated conversation. Getting to that conversation early is what gives you the most options. Expand. What smart site selection actually looks like. If you're adding a location to your industrial business, the worst way to do it is to find out what may be available and go directly to price. That's how you end up with a building that checks a box but doesn't help the operation. Good expansion advisory starts with a different question. What does this new location accomplish for the business? From there, the site selection work covers 5 things that most business owners don't fully consider. First, where your customers are and whether the location really serves them. Second, where the market is headed, because a site at the edge of today's development may be at the center of tomorrow's growth corridor. Third, traffic, highway access, how easily trucks and customers can get in and out. And fourth, infrastructure, road limits, utility capacity, and freight access. And fifth, labor, whether you can hire and keep people at that location. In the DFW market specifically, these factors vary significantly by submarket and corridor. A location that looks fine on a map can have real problems when you run through it for the entire framework. Sometimes a location that isn't obvious can be the right call. The goal isn't just to find space, at the lowest price for that matter, it's to make sure that when you add a location, it strengthens your overall operation. That starts with asking the right questions before you ever look at the lease or purchase agreement. 3 reasons your building or facility is a business decision. Most industrial business owners think about their real estate as a cost, square footage, rent, mortgage payments, but the building you operate out of is also one of the biggest strategic aspects of your business. Most conversations I have with an industrial business owner would fall into one of 3 categories. They need more space, they need different space, or they need to unlock the value of the space they already own. These 3 categories, expand, relocate, or sell, are the pillars of how I work with industrial business owners across Dallas-Fort Worth and the other markets. What they have in common is this: in each case, the real estate decision has to be evaluated in the context of the business. It's not just a property transaction. Real estate serves the business and drives the decision. The decision has real consequences for how the company performs and the value it can deliver for stakeholders. I'm going to walk you through each of these areas and what they mean for the industrial business owner in practice. Whether you're growing, repositioning, selling property, or thinking of selling about your business, or thinking about a business exit, one of these conversations applies to you where you are right now. Relocate, when the building or facility is holding a business back. There are businesses operating in facilities that are limiting what they can do, not because the building is falling apart, but because it was designed for a different era of operations. Clear heights that don't work with modern racking, electrical service that can't support current machinery loads or planned future automation, column spacing that locks in your floor layout, dock door configurations that create a bottleneck every time volume picks up, technology infrastructure that limits connectivity. These factors aren't cosmetic issues, they're built into the original design and can't be changed cost efficiently. What they represent is a competitive disadvantage relative to businesses operating in a more capable facility. Relocation may make sense when the business has outgrown the space, when the market has shifted, and the location no longer serves the customer base the way it once did, or maybe when the lease economics have become uncompetitive. In a lot of situations, more than one of these factors is present at the same time. The right time to explore a complete analysis is before a lease renews or a purchase comes up for review. Many owners, when they lay out the true cost of current and future operations to stay in a facility against the real cost of moving, find the numbers favor relocation more than they expected. The sale-leaseback is a concept most owners have never considered. If you've owned the real estate where your business operates for a while, there's a good chance you have significant equity sitting in that real estate, and there's a way to access it without moving, without disrupting your operation, and without selling the business. It's called a sale-leaseback. You sell the property to an investor, you sign a long-term lease, and you stay in the building as a tenant. The business doesn't move, the operations continue without interruption, but the real estate equity converts from an illiquid asset sitting on your balance sheet into working capital you can deploy. The capital can go back into the business, it can retire debt, fund an acquisition, or diversify into other investments. For owners who have spent years building equity in their building or facilities while running their business, this structure separates 2 assets that have been bundled together and lets you optimize each one independently. A sale-leaseback is not right for every situation, but for industrial businesses and industrial business owners who own the facility and have capital needs or want to diversify, it is consistently one of the most underused options available. If you've never had that conversation, it may be worth having.